Hello and welcome to Aging Matters, a program featuring guests who talk about issues of interest to older adults and their families. I'm Cheryl Beversdorf, your host. Today, Aging Matters TV show is pleased to present a program about having difficult conversations and why effective communication skills can ensure more favorable outcomes to those conversations. My guest is Erin Whalen, a communication skills coach and founder of a company called Compassionate Coaching. During the program, she will explain why good communication skills can help family members deal with aging-related issues and how best to talk about them. The interview will include a portrayal of a conversation between two family members and how assistance from a communication skills coach can help make that same conversation more successful. So welcome, Erin, and thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, Cheryl.
Okay, well, give us an overview here. Why is it beneficial to have communication skills, good communication skills?
Well, it's beneficial because we're human beings who need to connect with other human beings. We need to trust each other. And if we have that foundation of good communication skills, we're going to have greater trust. People are going to trust us more. And we all just really want to be seen and heard. It's one of the things that is just core to our nature. And part of being seen and heard is being able to communicate your needs, communicate your emotions, and have other people recognize those emotions, recognize those needs, and connect with us. So it's really about, it's foundational to who we are as humans.
And so is it possible to help individuals develop these skills so they can communicate more effectively?
Yes, absolutely. It's a skill, even though we communicate all the time, we are communicating every time we're in the presence of another human being, whether we're talking or not, we're still communicating. So it's something we do constantly, but it's something that we're not really thinking about most of the time. And if we stop and we practice and we really slow down and look at the different components of the way we're communicating, it is absolutely something we can improve.
Well, hopefully that's what we're going to be learning about today. So talk about the process. You are a communication skills coach. Mm-hmm. What is the process that you use to help people, especially when they have or are going to have a difficult conversation?
Well, I bring in some of my colleagues who are professional role players, and we're actually going to have a role player here with us soon to be part of the demo. And what I do is I first work with the person who wants to have the conversation and the role player, and I just get more information. And I just want to learn more about who it is that they're going to be talking to, kind of set the stage about the conversation, learn more about what's challenging for them, why they chose this conversation, what's really at the root of it, which they may or may not even know, but I really want to get more information. And then I step to the side and allow the role player, who is now fully embodying that person that they want to practice having the conversation with, I let the role player and the person who wants to practice have that conversation. And I allow it to go for a certain amount of time until it feels as though it's time to stop and discuss what's happened so far. And then we pause, we discuss, and we point to things that have gone well. I ask the role player for feedback. I want to hear from that role player about how they're feeling. What is it that the other person is doing or saying, and what kind of impact is that having on them? And the beauty of this is that it's all in a safe environment. So they're not having that conversation for real. They're practicing with this person who's not the real person. They're getting a chance to try things they might not normally try. And after we discuss, we try again, and then we discuss some more. So it's kind of a flow, which we'll see shortly, of practicing and discussing, so that someone can really walk away with tools that they can start implementing immediately.
And I heard you say about bringing in professional role players, mm-hmm. that they're used in this coaching process. Mm-hmm. Why that? Why are professional players used in this activity?
Well, professional role players are exceptional at a couple different things. One is they study humanity. A lot of them have an acting background, and so they're able to very quickly embody someone. And we'll see in the demo shortly that it doesn't take a long time for them to find out who they're going to be playing. It doesn't take a lot of time or preparation for them to fully embody that person. And then as they're being that person in the conversation, they're also able to think about, okay, what's happening and how am I feeling, so that they can talk about that. And that's critical. That's really important, because we don't normally go around saying, like, how do I come across? And, you know, what are you feeling right now as I'm having this conversation with you? But a professional role player can provide that insight.
Okay, well, we're looking forward to that. And I had one more question before we actually do the actual demo, and that is, how can this process, this communication skills coaching, help older adults and their families with difficult conversations? Is that a viable option for families?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, aging adults, older adults, they really have a lot of things that they're dealing with, a lot of new experiences, a lot of challenges with health, with finances, with housing, all sorts of things that are very difficult. And it's hard to talk about those difficult things. And when we bring family into the mix, it can be even harder. So having a safe place to practice that conversation ahead of time can really help someone feel more confident for when they're going to have that conversation with their loved one for real.
Okay. Well, you are about to see a conversation between an adult daughter and her mother. Dad has stage 4 lung cancer, and Mom needs more care assistance. The first family interaction portrays how the conversation might occur. With guidance from communication skills coach Erin, you will see how the conversation is more beneficial. So let's watch.
So Cheryl, we are going to set up the scenario, the conversation that you're going to practice with Elizabeth. And I like to ask people a little bit of information so that Elizabeth, our role player, can portray that person really effectively and really authentically, so that it feels very real for you. So Elizabeth is playing your daughter, and you want to have a conversation with her about how you need more help supporting Dad, who has stage 4 cancer. So give me 3 words to describe your daughter, Elizabeth.
Reliable, busy, and usually helpful.
Okay, reliable, busy, usually helpful. And I know you're going to be asking her for some more support. Is there something in particular you have in mind that you want to talk to her regarding the support you're seeking?
I just need some relief. I'm realizing that as a new caregiver, now that my husband is in the final stages, I just need more help, and sometimes just somebody to take over so I can just, you know, get a little relief.
Okay. So Elizabeth, you're going to be playing the daughter. What questions do you have?
I think I'm good right now. We talked about some of the background before, so I think I'm all right.
Okay.
Okay. And how will you know that this is successful? How will you know that you've reached the goal of the conversation?
Well, I'm hoping that she'll be willing to give me some relief, to take over some of the responsibilities, or at least come and visit once in a while. That's part of the problem, is that she lives 25 miles away, and I know she's a new mom and she's got a job and a husband and that, but I just would be happy if she'd be willing to give me some relief. I guess that's the best way to describe it.
Okay.
So that I could just, you know, take a breath.
Okay. So how this is going to work is I'm going to invite you and Elizabeth to have this conversation, and I'm going to pause at some point just so that we can talk about how things are going, maybe think about anything you want to tweak. Elizabeth will give you some information about how she's feeling, and what you're doing and saying and how it's impacting her in the conversation. And then we'll try it again.
Okay.
So what questions do you have?
I'm good.
Okay. And you can time out as well if you want to take a pause anytime. If it feels too intense, you just pause. So let's take a deep breath.
So Elizabeth, this whole diagnosis of your dad with stage 4 lung cancer has just thrown me for a loop. And I don't think I ever really realized how much time it takes to be a caregiver. I need to do all the driving now because your dad can't drive anymore. I also have to look over all the health insurance issues because, you know, he's not 65, so we don't have a lot of good insurance. So I have to kind of make sure that our bills are paid for. And as you know, I was doing a little volunteer work before, but I can't even get out of the house now because I don't have anybody to keep an eye on your dad. Well, if I leave. And so I just would like to ask you to provide some assistance for me. Maybe, I don't know. And it's also hard just to cook meals and keep track of everything in the house. So I really need your help.
Well, yeah, I mean, I threw us all for a loop, Mom. I know, like, I was trying to set up some meal prep stuff. I don't know. Like, I mean, his friends that are local, what are they doing? Are you calling on people?
Well, I am, but that also costs money. You know, getting home health is something that we would have to pay for.
I just mean like his guys, like his like pickleball guys and stuff.
Oh, well, yeah, but of course they're busy too, and I don't think they always necessarily understand. But yeah, I would like to get them to bring meals. But you know, men are not like women in terms of bringing over, you know, a 3-course meal or pizza or, you know, some dessert or something. And so, and I feel a little awkward. I mean, before we were pretty self-sufficient, and now all of a sudden I'm needing to look out for other people to help, and it's kind of embarrassing as well.
Well, that's that like old women have to do it all thing. You got to get past that. You got to, like, just like, you know. I mean, I know it's a lot. I don't know what to tell you.
Well,
Let's take a pause. Let's take a pause. How are you feeling?
frustrated.
Okay. Tell me more.
I'm frustrated because I'd like to have her, who is my daughter, say, well, here's what I can do for you. And maybe it's not a lot, but at least it would be something that would give me some relief. And I'm not hearing that. And I feel like she doesn't care, or she doesn't care about her dad, she doesn't care about her mom, that her family is really the priority. And it would be helpful to get some ideas of how she could provide some relief for me.
So you're frustrated because you have an expectation
Yes.
that Elizabeth will volunteer to pitch in once she just hears everything that you're dealing with.
Yes.
Okay. And I'm wondering how you're feeling, Elizabeth.
I'm feeling like I need to be in problem-solving mode, but I see possible solutions that are not the same as what she's looking for. Or I'm at the point of wondering about sort of other things as opposed to personal responsibility.
So what you're hoping for is not at all on her mind.
Right.
Right. So thinking about the way you're communicating, what is a way you can talk to her about what is on your mind? What you're hoping for?
Well, I'm thinking that maybe, again, realizing that she does have a lot of other responsibilities and a child and a husband and a job, that if I can bargain with her or negotiate and come up with something that is realistic, that maybe she could come once in a while, I don't know, maybe a weekend or that, and maybe be sure that she brings along dinner or lunch or whatever, and that maybe she could even sit with her dad and just be there with him alone while I was able to go and just do something else for a time. So I guess those are the kinds of the things I'm hoping that she will agree to.
Okay. Okay. Elizabeth, were those things clear to you or on your radar, on your mind at all when you were talking with Cheryl?
Not specifically, no.
Okay. And what would it be like as her daughter to hear that request more directly?
I think because of how you set this up and because you've identified me as a reliable and helpful person, getting some specifics may make it easier for me to respond to that need as opposed to doing a lot of problem solving that's not what you're looking for.
I want to also bring up that you're feeling frustrated, right? And Elizabeth described the mode she was in as a problem-solving mode. So I think the missing element here is that this is affecting both of you deeply on a lot of different layers. And it's your husband and it's her dad. And I know you said it seems like her priority is her family and she doesn't care about me and she doesn't care about her dad. And I don't think that's true. What do you think? Do you think that's how you're feeling?
No, just not clear of what those expectations are or what your needs are.
Mm-hmm. So sometimes we talk about triangulating the problem. It's a way to reframe how we're looking at a situation. So right now you've been hoping that Elizabeth will volunteer this thing that you're looking for, and she's not even in that same mindset. And instead of having this kind of battle over, what you are doing and what you're hoping she would do that you haven't even stated, right? Instead, there's a way to say, okay, we are both affected by this thing, and we need to work together to deal with the problem. And in this case, the problem is a little sticky. The problem is, dad is sick and we need help, right? So if there's a way to frame it in that way, if there's a way to frame it as, your dad, who you love very much, is really sick, and I, who you love very much, am really overwhelmed. And I know you're really reliable. I know that you're a great daughter who cares deeply. I'm wondering what we can talk about that you can do to help. How does something like that sound?
Okay.
Okay. Elizabeth, anything to add before we dive back in and try this again?
No.
Okay. Cheryl, any questions about anything you want to try differently, or any piece of the conversation you want to try?
I think that putting it in a way that we're in this together rather than her against me makes a lot of sense.
Okay. Okay. So let's try it again. Let's try it from the beginning. Let's try opening up the conversation, and let's try it in maybe a different way that helps you partner with your daughter and helps you work together to deal with the really hard truth that dad is sick and that you're overwhelmed.
Okay. Elizabeth, we got the diagnosis today that your dad has got stage 4 cancer. I've often worried about it because he was always a smoker. And I learned that he's going to need chemotherapy. I'm not sure if it's going to help, but it's going to require visits to the doctor, visits to the hospital. I'm discovering already that the care is getting more complicated and comprehensive. I'm having to worry more about paying the hospital bill, or not the hospital, but the medical bills. And I need your help. I didn't realize what caregiving really was all about until now, because Dad has always been healthy. And so I'm hoping that even though you have a very busy life, I know how much you love your dad, just as I love my husband, And I'm hoping that we can come up with some kind of solution in which you could just kind of help me, give me some relief. And whether it's visiting on the weekend, maybe, when you've got a little bit more free time, or bringing a meal, or maybe even looking over the hospital bills, whatever it is that you could help me with, I would greatly appreciate. We're in this together, Elizabeth.
Well, yeah, no, I don't want you to run yourself into the ground while he needs help. Hospital bills, we'll take care of that. And Dan's great at numbers, and he'll look at all that. Like, let's take that off your plate. I just don't know, like, logistically like when or how. I'm not sure what's gonna work. But I know you need some breaks. So what are you thinking about, or what?
Well, I was thinking maybe like on the weekend or something like that, that you might be able to just come over for a few hours and then just stay with your dad so I could go grocery shopping or whatever. Would that work?
Yeah, I mean, do you think it'd be well? I mean, I probably have to bring the kids. Is he well enough for that now, at least?
I guess we'd have to work that out. And I can also work on trying to find somebody also to help. And maybe even look after the kids while you spend some time with him.
Well, we can try for weekends, and I can do that. I think you need more during the week too. So I mean, I think we need to not just. I don't want you to just like fill in a little gap. We need to have a bigger plan. That's not just me coming down.
Well, why don't I think through? I'm glad we had this conversation right now, and kind of think through on a daily basis what Dad needs, and whether or not I can get some help, on a part-time basis. And then we can talk again and see where you can help, and maybe think about the kids and what works out best for you and your schedule.
Yeah.
Okay? Thank you.
I hear Erin. Thank you.
So how are you feeling now, Cheryl?
Better.
Better.
I think that she's on my side.
Yeah.
And I think we're a team, and she will give me some relief.
Yeah.
And I need that.
Elizabeth, did you feel more on her side this time?
Yeah, it felt clearer what you were asking.
Right.
Yeah.
There was more of a dialogue, I noticed. There was more of a give and take, and Elizabeth was comfortable asking clarifying questions, while the first time her responses were a bit more almost defensive. Not in a mean way, but just in a way of you weren't connecting together. So this time I saw more conversation together and problem solving together, as opposed to you have your idea, and they're not matching. So I hope that was helpful, Cheryl.
It was.
Okay, good.
It was.
Elizabeth, any final thoughts on that experience, or any feedback you want to offer to Cheryl?
Well, noting that the first time felt frustrating, and the second time I don't think either of us were frustrated. And no matter what your daughter in real life says, being able to have the conversation without the frustration feels important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think what this is it's a new experience for all of us.
And it's easier to navigate together.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I hope that was helpful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you.
Erin, obviously we just saw this demonstration between Elizabeth and her mom, and I was wondering, as the coach here, the communication skill coach, as you listened to the conversation, how did you determine how best to advise mom so she could have a more productive conversation with her daughter?
I think one of the easiest ways for me to do that is to first hear how you are doing and how Elizabeth feels, because that can help guide the conversation on what's almost the low hanging fruit that we can use to improve the conversation. And in that specific scenario, it seemed as though you both weren't connecting, and she was not necessarily understanding what it was that you wanted, and so that's why we discussed more about triangulating the problem, trying to get on the same page. That seemed like the right approach based on how you both experienced the conversation while we were debriefing it.
And so with that in mind then, are there general guidelines that family members should remember when faced with having a difficult conversation?
I think the first key is to know that families are complicated and complex, and there's a long history that families have together. And so just going into that, going into the conversation being aware that it's complex and there are probably going to be some pretty high stake emotions happening. And I know Elizabeth shared too, as we were discussing the conversation that the two of you had, it's a lot better to go into the conversation feeling less frustrated or not frustrated at all. So I think making sure you're on the same page with people emotion-wise, being aware of how you're feeling, not having the conversation when you're feeling highly emotional, that's really key. So those are some things that I would advise.
Okay. Well, I hope we learned a lot today in this demonstration. So thank you, Erin.
Thank you.
Having just learned about this whole activity now, how can viewers contact you for more information?
Well, they can go to my website, which is www.compassionatecoaching.org, and they can email me, Erin, E-R-I-N, @compassionatecoaching.org.
All right. Well, I want to thank Erin Whalen, communication skills coach and founder of Compassionate Coaching, and Elizabeth Jernigan, the role player with Compassionate Coaching, for joining me today. This program is broadcast Sundays at 5:30 p.m. and Wednesdays at 6 p.m. on Comcast Channel 69 and Verizon Channel 38 in Arlington, Virginia. Aging Matters is also on the radio. The program is broadcast every Tuesday and Friday at 2 p.m. on WERA Arlington 96.7 FM. Be sure to check out the Aging Matters website, agingmattersonline.com, for more information about our radio programs and TV episodes. Thank you for watching the program today, and please join me again for the next Aging Matters show. And until then, remember, age is just a number, not a label.